Welcome back to GC8, Geek Channel 8. I woke up this morning and noticed that there's someone from Romania downloaded Nosferatu. I thought that was hilarious.
Nice. I got a teenager. I haven't been able to hang tight with them and actually do music, which is one of our favorite things. But we did hit up a new thrift store. He's actually way more into like audio tech than I am and stuff like that. He wanted these pair of headphones that looked unremarkable to me, but he identified the brand, paid $6 for them, $175 headphones. So he's stoked.
When it comes to music, it's like I have a couple of really cheap electric guitars and I don't really play. I keep saying I'll play, but I never pick it up and practice and whatever. I recently bought a like little tuning device to help keep them in tune. But the other day I heard that there's such thing as a tuning pedal.
Oh,
Now, I don't have any pedals for the guitar, and I'm thinking this might be the first pedal I buy because as soon as I heard there's a tuning pedal, I'm like, okay, that's way cooler than the regular tuning device thingy. I don't know. All the electric guitar fans are like laughing at us right now that I don't even know what this is called, but it just like it clips on to the guitar itself.
yeah.
It's a digital tuner, right? To get it in tune. But the pedal sounds even cooler. And there's no reason why it's probably the exact same device. It's just one you control with your fingers and one you control
Yeah.
with your foot. But there's something
And that does,
about like the pedal that makes it like that much cooler.
hey, you know what? I mean, honestly, Eric, if what you do with your guitars is it's like, well, what do you do with it? Well, I tune them. Like, once a month I just get them out and tune them.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's what I do. I mean, you know what? I should have learned that skill a long time ago because I used to do work crew for rock shows and stuff like that. And like the next step up from that in pay is being the person that goes out and tunes the guitars and, so that
Ah,
before the band comes on, right? So
yeah.
that's like the next level of pay up, you know?
All right. Well, see, now I'm wondering is like, so at some point if you're on that particular, track, do you have to like divert and go work at like, a guitar center or someplace like that, and then come back and then, you go back and forth between these different, I mean, I don't know what the evolution is.
I don't either because I chose not to do that. But I think what happens is you have a couple of tracks, right? And like one of them is to become uh road crew for a band.
Yeah.
And so then you got to choose carefully or choose wisely a band that you want to be road crew for. Hopefully you're a fan of them. But then when they're not on the road, you got to work too, right? So then you go work at the Guitar Center or whatever during the like, and then uh eventually, if they're a big enough band, you can survive just on being their like roadie, like especially if you're the person that tunes slashes guitars,
Oh yeah, I
like
mean,
then you're set, right?
honestly, that's probably a lot of cred right there. It's like, well, what do you do? I just, I tune guitars. What? That's it? I'm like, yeah, no, for Slash. Oh, okay, yeah, 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 yeah.
But a lot of those people are aspiring musicians themselves, right?
Right?
So like Lemmy from Motorhead did that for Jimi Hendrix, right?
Oh, hell
So
yeah.
like that's like because then you learn the business from the inside and you make contacts and things like that, plus you get to see a band that you like every night,
Oh
so
yeah.
I don't know, like I'm talking about something that I don't really know anything about right now. Like all I've done is like carry equipment to a stage. Like that is all that I've done in when it comes to the music world. But I'm sure someone will write in and tell us or something. Anyway, okay, you ready to talk about today's movie?
Oh my, yeah. I think I'm unique. Well, not uniquely qualified, but yes, I'm ready.
Okay. Rather than do a background to the year and production notes to this particular movie, I want to do a deeper dive into who made this Blue Sky Studios. Who exactly is Blue Sky Studios? Where did they come from and where did they go? Because they're not around anymore. They're not the typical animation studio in their origins. They started in the late 1970s. There was a guy named Chris Wedge who was a film student. And while he was studying film, he was hired by Magi or Magi. They were a company that produced a software called Synthavision, which could replicate the laws of physics to simulate the effects of nuclear radiation for the US government, for government contracts. And so while they were working at Magi, Wedge met a theoretical physicist, Eugene Trubetskoy, who also happened to be dabble in computer animation. He was one of the first people doing that. Because Wedge had some experience with character animation, he helped Magi produce animation for TV commercials. This is something that Pixar did as well. Like TV commercials seemed to be like the way to make money in the beginning.
Yeah, sense.
They were making these really what's now very low tech computer graphic TV commercials. And it got noticed by Walt Disney, who proposed the idea that they make a feature film, which was Tron.
Whoa.
Yeah. After Tron, Magi transferred two of their people, Carl Ludwig and Mike Ferraro, from their computer aided drafting CAD division over to this project. And when Magi's success began to decline, the company hired a CBS/Fox video guy named David Brown to be their marketing person, and a woman named Allison Brown to be the managing producer. Magi was sold to VidMax, which was a Canadian company. And then these six people, Wedge, Trubetsky, Ferraro, Ludwig, David Brown, and Allison Brown, they all split off and formed their own company, Blue Sky Studios, in 1987 to keep doing this. At Blue Sky, Ferraro and Ludwig continued to work on the programming language they started at Magi. This was all what was called scanline renders. Computer animators had to create their own lighting effects. And so Trubetskoy and Ludwig adapted Magi's ray tracing algorithms that simulated the dispersion of radiation.
Yeah.
They used that algorithm to simulate the dispersion of light, which is now ray tracing is a very commonly known thing in computer animation. So they looked at how like light passes through other objects like water, ice,
Uh-huh.
and crystal, and they programmed all that into the software. You see where that's going, right?
Oh yeah. Wow.
Then there was the stock market crash of 87, and it took them a long time to find a client. And what they did was what's now known as a flying logo. That became like the thing to have at the end of the
Right.
80s, early in the 90s, like the flying logo. They spent 2 days rendering a single frame, one
Oh,
single frame of this logo animation, and submitted it to the client. But once the client liked it, they found they couldn't produce the entire animation in time without help from a local graphics studio, which provided them extra computers.
oh wow.
When I started animating computer animation in the late 90s, I did what was probably a minute or less than a minute animation, but it had ray tracing and like all kinds of things going on in it, particle effects and NURBS modeling and polygonal modeling and all the I threw all the tricks into one thing. Well, it was a 2 week render,
Oh, whoa.
so I can see, and that was almost a decade after this time. So even though they had to like outsource some of the rendering part of this project, they basically became one of the places to go for computer animation in
Mhm.
commercials. They did stuff for Chrysler, General Foods, the Marine Corps, Pepsi, Texaco, pharmaceutical companies. They did an ad for chock full of nuts. They also created the animated M&Ms.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Cha-ching.
they did over 200 commercials. And then in 1996, MTV contacted them to work on the film Joe's Apartment. So if you remember that, there was a bunch of animated cockroaches. Yeah.
Yeah.
In 1997, VIFX or VIFX, 20th Century's visual effects company based in Los Angeles, gained a majority interest in Blue Sky Studios, and they used it to form a new visual effects and animation company, which they called at the time Blue Sky slash VIFX. They did visual effects for a bunch of movies, right at the end of the 90s. Alien Resurrection, Simple Wish, Mouse Hunt,
Uh-huh.
Star Trek Insurrection, Fight Club, and one of the episodes of The Sopranos. Meanwhile, starting in about 1990, Wedge had been working on a short film called Bunny, which was to demonstrate what CGI Studio could do, which was their they're so first generation that their software application was literally called CGI Studio, right? So
Mhm.
they released Bunny in 1998 and it received the Academy Award for Best Animated Short Film. And that allowed them to leverage that success into producing feature films. In March of 1999, Fox decided to sell VFX to another visual effects house, Rhythm and Hughes, but they wanted to keep Blue Sky Studios under Fox. So Wedge has said that they had considered selling Blue Sky as well in 2000 due to financial difficulties in the visual effects industry. But Wedge and film producer Lori Forte and animation executive Meladandri presented Fox with a script for a comedy feature film titled Ice Age. The studio management pressured the staff to sell their remaining shares and options to Fox on the promise that they would have continued employment on feature length films.
Yeah.
And the studio was then moved to White Plains, New York, and they started production on Ice Age. As the film wrapped, Fox was afraid it might bomb at the box office. So they terminated half of the production staff.
Oh my
They
God.
tried unsuccessfully to find a buyer for the film and the studio. So it was a package deal. It's like, here's the studio and you get the film with it. They didn't have a buyer, so they released it in March of 2002. And it was both a critical and commercial success. It received a nomination for an Academy Award for Best Animated Feature at the 75th Annual Academy Awards in 2003. It established Blue Sky as one of the big three, up there with Pixar and DreamWorks Animation. They were the third studio to launch a successful CGI franchise. So things are looking good for Blue Sky at this point in time.
Yeah, they are.
In January 2009, the studio moved from White Plains to Greenwich, Connecticut, taking advantage of the state's tax credit and, have more space. And in 2017, the studio stated that it intended to stay in Connecticut until 2025.
Hmm.
It's now 2025 and they're not there. So obviously, this story is going to take a turn, right? They were a subsidiary of 20th Century Animation until, remember, it got acquired by the Disney Corporation. And as part of their acquisition of the 21st Century Fox assets in 2019, Disney closed down Blue Sky in April of 2021 due to the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Made it pretty far.
They had a good run. Let's talk about this movie in particular. Ice Age Dawn of the Dinosaurs is the sequel to Ice Age The Meltdown, which came out in 2006, which was itself the sequel to the film Ice Age. So it's the third movie in the series. The director was Carlos Saldana, and it was co-directed by Mike Thurmeyer. It was based on a story conceived by Jason Carter Eaton. The talent brought in Ray Romano, John Leguizamo, Dennis Leary, and Chris Wedge himself reprised their roles from the first couple of films.
Oh.
Sean William Scott, Josh Peck, and Queen Latifah reprised their roles from the sequel, The Meltdown. And then Simon Pegg was added to the cast in the role of a weasel named Buck. We'll get into the plot, but basically Manny and Ellie are preparing for their baby, and Sid the sloth is kidnapped by a female Tyrannosaurus. The film came out in 2009, July, 4th of July weekend, I think, July 1st, actually. And it became the first Ice Age film and the first 20th Century Fox film to be released in 3D. And as of now has grossed about $886 million worldwide, making it the third highest grossing film of 2009, the highest grossing animated film of 2009, and the highest grossing Ice Age film, which makes it the highest grossing film from Blue Sky Studios.
Hmm.
They decided to do more of a what if adventure in this third installment. They said, quote, like finding the giant ape in King Kong or a Shangri-La in the middle of snow, which is actually Lost Horizon is what they were thinking of. So they named the film King Kong, but the Shangri-La one I think is Lost Horizon. And they added dinosaurs to the story. Character animator Peter DeSev welcomed the new plot edition of Dinosaurs because he couldn't think of any more giant mammals to put in the story. The Lost World approach, they liked that too because they could do colorful dinosaurs and they could take liberties because no one knew what color dinosaurs were. It was released on Father's Day, special screenings. So we said the wide release was 4th of July weekend, but the initial screenings were on Father's Day, June 21st, because it fit with the plot. And it was also a way to see how it would go in 3D. The film was released in Real D 3D where available. And this caused a small amount of controversy when Fox said that it wouldn't pay to supply 3D glasses to theaters. So a number of exhibitors threatened to show the film in only standard 2D. The film earned $196.6 million in North America, $690.1 million in other territories. Worldwide total, we mentioned earlier, $886.7 million. It cost $90 million to make. It's surpassed Finding Nemo to have the highest international gross for an animated film. It grossed $218.4 million during the opening weekend. It held the record for highest grossing opening for an animated film until 2018 when Incredibles 2 took that title. It was the third biggest release in 2009 for Fox after Avatar and Alvin and the Chipmunks, the Squeakquel, which they actually like make fun of in this movie.
Yeah, they do. Oh my gosh.
It got mixed reviews by the critics, but it was nominated in 2 categories at the 8th Visual Effects Society Awards for Outstanding Animation in an Animated Feature Motion Picture and Outstanding Animated Character in an Animated Feature Motion Picture. That's background to Blue Sky and this movie in particular.
Back when he was a kid on that desert planet, I don't know if Wedge really had any idea he was going to end up doing all of this.
You got to imagine like your average SCAD student from that era. and like, hey, yeah, come work with us on simulating radiation in for government contracts, right?
A job, okay.
And then that turned it. But he's got to have wanted to do this. Like he was
Oh,
literally in film school, right? So
he built all these tools, though. I mean, the thing is like the distance between he gets into this and actually producing, I guess let's say some kind of passion project was huge.
and this is when you have a bit of a genius or whatever. They're like, I want to do this thing, and there is no tool to do this thing. So I literally have to make the tool that I need to make this thing.
Oh,
It's not just true in film and video, it's true in
yeah,
like
no,
everything.
absolutely. There's another thing besides art where this shows up a lot. There's a whole Dennis Leary, ironically, bit on this about, marijuana use doesn't lead to
Oh,
harder drugs. It leads to
it leads to
carpentry.
carpentry. Yeah. Yes. We can throw out a Dennis Leary reference since he's in this movie. It's pretty fascinating to me that there are people out there who envision things that they can't make with existing tools and technology, so they have to first make the tech or the tool or whatever it is in order to make what they want.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's it. It's mind-boggling. And I,
Earlier we talked about electric guitars, and I think of Les Paul.
yeah.
What's very well known about Les Paul, like he was a musician, right? And he wanted to make music, but in order to make the music he wanted, he he made the electric guitar, right? I think he also pioneered multi-track recording. I could be wrong about that, but I think he did that as well. And in fact, Les Paul, nobody remembers his music. You couldn't name a single Les Paul song, right?
I can't.
But
Yeah.
everybody knows his name.
I'm like, well, who couldn't? Oh, well, like I don't know. Grover could probably.
Let's jump into the film itself. So Ellie, who you remember is Queen Latifah's character, a female mammoth, is pregnant, and Manny, Ray Romano's character, the male mammoth, is desperate to make a safe environment for her and their child because remember his first wife and child died. So
Whoa, I didn't remember that.
yeah,
That's that's crazy, man.
their whole herd came about because they're all sort of like orphans, right? Or all like,
Yeah.
separated from their own kind. Diego thought about leaving the herd because he feels like he's losing his hunting instincts. This is the saber-toothed tiger played by Dennis Leary. Sid, on the other hand, feels like abandoned, and so he wants to do this himself. He finds some eggs in a cave and decides to adopt them.
Yeah.
Manny tells him to put the eggs back, but Sid ignores him and looks after them, and they hatch into baby Tyrannosaurs the next day. Also, all these Ice Age films have Scrat, the squirrel thingy.
Yes, the squirrel.
Yeah, the
Yep.
mascot of Blue Sky Studios, battling with a saber-toothed squirrel named, I think it's pronounced Scrat also. It's Scrat with an E or
Okay.
Scratette
Sketch.
for the air for his acorn, right?
Yeah. But, that's some very classic animation stuff. I think that honestly, those bits really help this become beloved because it's like throwback animation. It's two creatures battling out in comedic ways. So, yeah.
I thought that this part of the movie was a little contrived. Like everybody has a crisis at the beginning. It's like,
Yeah.
so Diego's having the same crisis as Sid, and everybody has a crisis in the beginning. And I'm just like, okay, you could have revealed those crises later or not have everybody have a crisis right at once. But
Right.
anyway, that's how it starts out. I mean, even Scrat has the crisis right at the beginning, but it sets up this battle for the acorn that lasts throughout the movie. Sid tries to raise these dinosaurs, but they're tyrannosaurs. So they scare the other animals, the other baby animals, and Manny created this elaborate playground for the baby mammoth, and it was completely destroyed by the Tyrannosauruses. Manny was pretty upset about all that, but as if it couldn't get any worse, the mommy Tyrannosaurus shows up,
Yeah.
and Sid still refuses to return the kids, so she takes all of them, including Sid, away underground. And so then the rest of the herd have to follow them.
Yeah.
And they find an icy cave that leads to this subterranean world populated by dinosaurs. I had a bias against this film from the beginning because I was like, dinosaurs didn't live at the same time as mammoths, you know? But what they did is what we now know is use the classic lost world trope. Dinosaurs exist because they're in this underground area that's heated and all of that.
Yeah, I actually really like there's a bridge they have that goes into the underworld, and it's like through this giant rib cage. It's all part of a skeleton. I'm like, oh, that's nice. I like that. That's pretty classy. Good decor.
And they had to be saved by a one-eyed weasel named Buck,
Yes.
who I guess is kind of like Crocodile Dundee type character.
Yeah, I mean, totally. One-eyed, insane weasel. That's Simon Pegg's character, I believe.
Yeah, so I was wondering why he had a British accent, but was like sometimes like quasi Australian in
Right.
his lingo. And then I realized, then I found out that it was Simon Pegg, and I'm like, oh, okay, so it's a British guy playing Australian. It's interesting. I was not a fan of the zip line rib cage thing.
Oh, that kid. That's well. I really, you got a point there. That there's another. That's later where they have a zip line rib cage. This one's more creepy, you know, thing. But like the zip line rib cage, I'm like, who built this? What the hell? Okay, so we can just say so far everything is very contrived, and I remember watching it before, and I'm like, I don't remember having these feelings quite the same way. But I watched it before. I would have watched it with an actual child. And here's the thing: is when when you've been watching kids shows with your kids, any glimmer of adultness that is slightly more sophisticated seems like, oh, yeah. So yeah, it was a different experience this time around. But yeah, they set it up and get them to the underworld, and we're gonna go from there. I think the Buck character was a great addition.
Yeah, he was a good addition. I was going to hold off on talking about my feelings about this, but I'm going to go into it now since you brought it up. On the whole, this film doesn't work for me. Part of the reason is exactly what you just said. To me, it feels like everything in, let's just use Toy Story, which is the big franchise from their competitor,
Mm,
Pixar. Everything in Toy Story feels like it could work. Like, if humans weren't around, toys could do these things,
right.
right? The physics works in their world. It's not like a fantasy world. It's our world. It's just we don't see it, right?
Right.
This is not true of Ice Age, where they have those things like the rib cage zip line thing, which wouldn't work. Like that actually, you can't. Bones don't hold are held together by ligaments and stuff like that. When once they're bones, once they're just the remains of something, they fall apart. Right. So
Right.
there's nothing holding that stuff together. So someone would have had to engineer that all together and, find a way to fuse bone to bone and like all of that stuff. Toy Story doesn't do that. They have to find some real world way of getting off of the high shelf down to the floor, right? In a way that would actually work in the real world. And that's kind of it. I feel like Ice Age sort of waves its hand around movie physics a lot and is like, okay, just go with it. It comes, I think, more from the Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner form of cartoons, where it's like
Sure.
this is that's totally Scrat, right? So this is like it doesn't matter it's all in service to the gag, right?
All of this is just like hand waving. There's nothing makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, another example to use like a reference to something we already talked about, there's a reference to Alvin and the Chipmunks. They basically go someplace where they breathe in what is supposedly helium or something helium-like, and it makes their voice all high and squeaky. And then they start singing like Alvin and the Chipmunks, which I get it. It's a gag for the audience. It's also a poke at their rival
Right.
animation thing, so I get it, but it also makes no internal consistency in it. Whereas I feel like, again, to use the Toy Story example, they never really break fourth wall except in ways that are really subtle. Like there's a joke and like Buzz Lightyear will look at the camera and raise an eyebrow or something,
Barely.
like
Yeah. 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 It's a different aesthetic. I hate to be this guy, but I didn't learn anything in art school, but I did come to the conclusion that the only objective measurement of art is how much money can it make. I know, cynical, but their approach was obviously good enough. At this point, I've now watched this movie at least twice. They have made their money. It's funny because they just really lean into it's like, look, no, this is pretty. Looks good, doesn't it? Doesn't it look good? Look good. It looks pretty good, doesn't it? Cool. Oh, and we have these big name actors. That's for you guys. Parents in the back, yeah, okay. And so I mean, it works for what it is, but what it is not. Mm, it's you know what? It's like going to Chuck E. Cheese. The pizza's terrible, but it's pizza, so the kids are happy, and there's beer for the parents.
okay,
I mean,
well, let's talk about a little bit
went to
more
the rest
here.
of the movie. Yeah,
let's
okay,
let's
but
talk about the beer for the parents. We get Buck's backstory. So he's basically trying to hunt down Rudy, which is an albino baryonyx. They chose that instead of a T-Rex because they thought it looked scarier. It took Buck's eye, which is why he's after it. So he agrees to like be their guide and lead them through the jungle to Lava Falls where the T-Rex lives. The mother T-Rex is trying to get rid of Sid, but eventually comes to accept him as like an adopted child as well.
they have a bunch of set pieces. Let's give them credit, stealing from the best things. Okay, so the whole thing with Buck is this is his great white whale, is Rudy.
Yeah.
Heck, I bet you if we dug into the names, there's probably something there. I don't know, but anyway, so the his great white whale, because it's literally this albino dinosaur, is Rudy. So that's his whale. That's the you know throw back to another one we did, which is Jaws, where you have this crazy man who's like, yeah, I survived these sharks, and now I'm about killing sharks. So it is a lot of that, and they have like these different set pieces. You got to escape. What he even lists out like there's like the forest of doom or something, and then there's I guess I'm okay with that. I mean, they have a laughing gas slash truth gas bit. That's where the chipmunk joke comes in. That's they're going across the chasm of doom. And then they'll switch over to bits about Sid and the mommy dinosaur, and Sid's trying to get the baby dinosaurs to be vegetarians, and
Yeah.
neither they or the mom are having that. And they just are like, okay, now we'll switch to this. We'll switch to this now. Squirrel interlude.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We do get like dive bombing Quetzalcoatluses, but we've seen this in the Journey to the Beginning of Time or whatever.
yeah.
We saw it in Jurassic Park 3. So yeah, they have stolen from the best.
Well, I mean, yeah,
We do get what I wait for in all of these things, which is the dino on dino fight.
yeah.
Dino Battle of the Week. The dino on dino battle happens when the mother Tyrannosaur and Rudy get into a fight and she saves the herd from Rudy.
Oh yeah,
But the downside is since it's a kids movie, it's like she knocks him off a cliff, We don't get to see the tooth
I
and claw,
I
you
know that
know.
it's like off. I have no off-screen death. I'm thinking about these dinosaur movies we've been watching. It's like, yo, no, dinosaur falling off a cliff. Check. That's totally something that happens in almost every.
That was in the Lost World. That was in the
Yeah,
1920s.
they know their stuff. They're like, we have our franchise now. We need to keep cranking this stuff out, and we're just gonna, yeah, okay. Well, let's look. What worked for someone else? The aerial dog fight between, where I don't even remember what their names are, but there's like these two possum creatures. They're flying on the back of this thing, and they're trying to save Sid. I'm like, oh wow, I think I've seen this in Star Wars. Yeah, this seems. Oh my gosh, they're like flying the Millennium Falcon. There's this, this Han Solo. There, and of course, where did Star Wars get that? A lot of that aerial battles in Star Wars. Space battles. They got it. He stole it straight up. Stole it out of World War II movies. So
Yeah.
those things were, vaguely fun. Like the most unique thing was honestly, this is an animated movie, and we have the emotional interaction between a dad and his friends as the baby's coming. I mean, I'm like, oh, I don't know, maybe that's not even unique, but like, I'm like, okay, well, that's more unusual than almost anything else in here. I mean, I love the squirrel interludes; they were fun, but they're also like, yeah, this is a classic cat and mouse or spy versus spy or whatever it is, two characters fighting over one thing. This movie, they do have a part where they fall in love. Doesn't last, of course, but
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of crazy, crazy stuff here that is just not very exciting because it's like, what's going to happen, how it's going to end. It's not, you know.
In the end, it comes down to a matter of taste. I can't fully give it a thumbs down because it delivers what I think the audience wants. Obviously, it does because it did so well financially, if that's the metric of art we're going with. On the other hand, it's a way better movie than Tammy and the T-Rex, or
Mm, mm, mm.
to be draw a finer line, it's probably a better movie than The Valley of Gwangi, but I enjoyed The Valley of Gwangi more.
The warehouse is in danger, the goodies we must save. All officers report at once, the situation's grave. Go get them, boys, for God's sake. The culprits must be stopped. We'll make the scene with our siren, Arizona pop as pop. Aha! The guilty ones are trapped, we've now performed our mission. But the climax isn't kept until we have an intermission.
Okay, so look, it's super obvious. It's the thing. It dino nuggies. They're chicken nuggets in the shape of dinosaurs, and so it's because just having chicken nuggets, which are incredibly blandified version of chicken, is not enough to entice the child to eat. You got to also make them into dinosaurs. That's what it's a perfect thing for this movie. Now, I am going to offer an alternative because
Well, wait, before you do, I just want to say that, paleontologists and biologists believe the closest living relative to most of these dinosaurs is the chicken. So it's not far from being a dino nuggie to begin with, chicken nuggets.
okay, fair, but like it's like well, okay, we're gonna take the dinosaurs and we're gonna turn them into a paste and reshape them into dinosaurs. Remove
Yeah,
all the remove,
exactly.
we're gonna remove all of the pointy bits. We're gonna remove anything resembling texture, and then we're gonna do a little breading on it, and we'll serve it with ketchup because in case that's still not sweet and not neutral or whatever enough. Oh, I mean, I okay, I literally have at one point I tried to elevate the Diane Nuggies for the kids in my life by I'm like, yeah, like microwave? You just want to know how about I toast them in the pan or something? And that was totally rejected. I was like, no, what have you done? You screwed them up. Okay. It
You got to deep fry them, man.
that's no, that was straight out. No, the literally the way they came out of the microwave, which you would think would be the worst possible, that's what they wanted. Whew. Oh man, broke my heart. No, not really. But Okay, so I'm gonna because the only thing that makes this not Dino Nuggies is the fact that they threw a little bit of stuff in there for the grown-ups. Um, and then there is all and then there is one food that shows up repeatedly in this movie for some reason, broccoli. Again, does any it's one of those things where like, no, this makes no sense. There was no Ice Age broccoli. That was not a thing. But they needed something that was immediately identifiable as a vegetable, and that was the easiest thing to use. So they for the bit of Sid trying to make the T Rexes vegan, broccoli. So that showed up. Okay, here's what we do. It's a compromise that might work. You'll probably end up eating this, and maybe you're not your kid because even then it's not good enough for them. What you do is you make a vegetable pancora. I might be not saying that wrong, but basically, it's a vegetable fritter. It's battered and it's deep fried. You make it out of broccoli. For you, as an adult palate, they are freaking delicious. Mwah. For your child, you're probably still going to have to like put a thing of ranch there or something, ketchup. That's my compromise. But being real, I mean, we might have already done Dino Nuggies before, but this is the Dino Nuggie thing. And I just got to say, I feel like you've slandered two movies. Here,
Which two movies did I slander?
you, I feel like you slandered Tammy and the T Rex, and definitely Wanji.
Oh, really? You're gonna sit here and defend Tammy and the T-Rex?
Oh my God. Okay, look. If you if you ever had a homemade meal that somebody took and went into the kitchen, found something old in the fridge, found something weird out of the cupboard, found some, I don't know, condiments that were left over, and they're like presented to you with great, like, hey, I made you something to eat. That's Tammy and the T Rex. It's crazy banana pants. You will never get that again, and you would not have asked for it. But at least it has texture, flavor, surprises. It is not so incredibly bland, which just, I don't even know what is it they put on, chicken nuggets to give them quote flavor, whatever that is. It's like that's all we got from this movie. I will take Tammy and the T Rex all day over this sequel.
Here's the way I look at it. First of all, I don't want to come down too hard on this film because it's not a bad film. We have watched films that are just like, God, I never want to watch this again. This to me is like laundry day type viewing. I don't need to pay too close attention to it. I'm doing the laundry, like that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Tammy and the T-Rex is more engaging in that you got to pay attention. It's really bad, but you still got to pay
Ironically, yes.
attention, you know? um, I don't know if that encapsulates my feelings about them. Now, keep in mind, I also like bad movies. I was accused by you of not having enough corn and cheese in my diet as a kid, but I like them in a different way than I like a good movie. So what it comes down to is I probably won't watch Tammy and the T-Rex again because it takes engagement. If this is on while I'm doing something else, I might pay attention during the scrap bits.
Mm.
There are worse fates in hell, or abandon all ye who enter here. Yes, there was a reference to that in this too. There are worse fates than having to watch Ice Age Dawn of the Dinosaurs again. It's just not that, it's bland. It's not that engaging to me. That's kind of my bigger beef with it.
I think that's fair. I'm going to say not that this is a good film. I can't really bring myself to say that. I'm going to say that it was well crafted. Okay. Did what it's supposed to do very well. I literally had only one laugh, and that was in a very, again, it was a stolen joke, but I guess I could relate it to it. It was, Ellie asks Diego to hold his paw. Will you hold can I hold your paw? and because she's in the middle of labor, and he's like, "Oh, of course, sure." He's like, "Just breathe through the vein," and she's crushing his paw, and I laughed. Ha! But
Okay, so
that's
I've
it.
never had that experience. So honestly, I
Exactly.
was I was gonna bring up the humor. It's supposed to be a comedy, and I also never laughed during it. The whole
Yeah.
thing, the closest it got me to that was that's amusing, and that was Scrat stuff, you
Yep.
know. And I don't think Scrat deserves a full length movie either. I
Oh
think
no, 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 no.
they might have made one. I don't know. All I need is like a Scrat short before another movie. Like that is what
That's
they.
exactly the right amount. Yeah, yeah. I mean, honestly, I feel that same way. I'm like, I don't want to watch back to back Roadrunner. I want to watch a Roadrunner thing and then watch something else.
Which is how they started, right?
Right.
That's how Warner Brothers Animation started, was just like, we're gonna have this, and then they got longer and longer into like feature length animations of like, Robin Hood Daffy, or
Yeah.
like Duck Dodgers or whatever, and those were still pretty good, but then if you try to take that whole thing and make it into Space Jam, suddenly it
Oh,
doesn't work anymore.
oh, 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 yeah. No. Not their best stuff, I don't think, but
I don't know. I think that comedy animation, it's very hard to sustain over the long haul. So even if you're talking adult stuff, like I love heavy metal. Like it's a whole bunch of adult
mm,
like animated shorts. But it would be hard to see one of the comedy ones like whatever the Hanover Fisk one was.
oh, oof,
It would be
yeah,
hard to see that stretched into a feature length film.
yeah.
Did they make a like feature length Futurama
I
ever?
think they have actually. I'm not sure because there's like Futurama is one of those things that keeps on coming back from the dead. Like oh, okay, we're back, guys. So yeah, they might have, and but at least honestly, there's more than one joke in Futurama. They just keep on making bam, 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 bam. So
Yeah, I'm wondering how that would hold up over a feature length. We might have to do Futurama Bender's Game, which was I think a feature length that they made.
okay. Well, you know what? And I guarantee you that I guarantee you I'm just talking smack out my ass. They probably did one where they were on a dinosaur planet. Let's face it. I mean, why
Yeah.
why, why
Well,
wouldn't
that
they have?
how many episodes are they up to by now? There has
God,
to have been one.
bazillions. Yeah, it's crazy. Oh
Like,
my
what
gosh.
haven't they done, right? Okay. I think we said what needs to be said about this film. My assessment of this is it is a film that you can watch with the kids and not hate life. Because there are some kids' films that I would just be like, yeah, I can't even sit here and watch this. This is not that. However, keep your expectations low. It isn't Shrek. It isn't Toy Story. It just isn't even in the same ballpark as that stuff.
It might be Shrek 4. I don't know how many they're up to. It might be like that. That's more like it.
Yeah. It isn't even as good as the first Ice Age film, right?
No.
So, like, there's where we're at. If you just want to check out really cool animation, their animation is good.
Yeah.
The character designs, the motion, like we said, ice is their specialty. So, like, of course, they're going to make them film Ice Age. Until next time, this is Eric
And this is Will.
signing off. The Baron, how do you say it? The Baryonyx